What you're seeing on the screen is from Poland. They're worried because drones have gone into Poland, and they didn't just go into Poland passively. Like I said, they have gone into Poland. They were fired by the Russians into Poland. Now, whether that was accidental or whether it was intentional, and I lean toward the latter, that it was an intentional probing, although I can't prove it, that still doesn't change the fact that drones just flew into Poland from Russia. All right. Poland shoots down Shahed for the first time. Reports say 10 drones were destroyed. Those were early reports. That's now up to 23 drones that we know of that were violating Polish airspace. Poland announces urgent call-up of reservists and after a drone incursion. The BBC notes that the downing of these objects could mark a new stage in Russia's war against Ukraine. All right. Where were these incursions happening? Well, okay, so one, you could kind of say, okay, well, maybe that was errant and went across the border. But over here by the Belarusian border, the higher you go, the worse, or what's going on out here. Or there's even something up here I'm not sure about, but like, okay. So NATO asserts that the Russian drone flights over Poland do not constitute an attack on the alliance. NATO is showing itself to be a paper tiger. They're not even, they're so interested in not actually having some kind of bad things happening, like, oh, we don't want an Article 5, that they're trying to desperately, swipe this under the carpet. However, this marked the first time NATO aircraft engaged in potential threats over Allied territory. The response involved Polish F-16s, Dutch F-35s, Italian AWACS, reconnaissance planes, NATO shared refueling aircraft. I'm going to talk about the international response here. It's incredible, good and bad, and you'll see both. In eastern Poland, cameras recorded the first confirmed drone strike on Polish soil as a drone or drone-like object hit a residential building in a city I can't pronounce. My pronunciation of Polish words is no better than Ukrainian, though no one was injured. Meanwhile, in Poland, Poland is pulling troops toward the border with Belarus. Some images of what the destruction was looking like. Okay, so that's what's happening in Poland. So what's actually going to be the response? Well, again, 20 drones, probably 23, have violated Polish airspace. So Donald Tusk says last night the Polish airspace was violated by a huge number of Russian drones. Those drones that posed a direct threat were shot down. I'm in constant communication with the Secretary General of NATO and our allies. Okay, so this is no longer a coincidence, says the PIS leader. This is no longer a coincidence. It's simply an attack. Today is a special day. We are dealing with an attack on Poland. That is true. Even if it was accidental and they were trying to hit Ukraine, the Russians still attacked Poland. The Allies need to understand the magnitude of what is actually happening. This is serious. It really is. Here is Richard Cole saying this. Poland to invoke Article 4 of NATO, requesting consultations with the Allies. This is a logical move after an unprecedented, deliberate violation of Polish airspace by a Russian drone incursion. Russia keeps pushing the limits, sending drones into NATO, into the EU airspace, posing a direct threat to our security. And so if you look into the article, Poland will invoke Article 4 of NATO. Tusk says Poland will invoke Article 4. The parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties is threatened. And it is threatened because of what's just happened. Based on the data available so far, the incident tonight is best described as probing. It's a step in a gradual escalation against Europe, progressing from jamming and sabotage operations to a single drone flight to now small swarms over EU and NATO member Poland. Yep. I think that's a fair analysis. You could argue that this is not correct and it was just an accident. But the preponderance of evidence seems to indicate that, no, they're trying to do this. Russia has deliberately and strategically attacked Poland with drones, says Ukrainian President Advisor Mikhailo Podolyak. The goal to test West's response system, shock Europe, normalize the idea of war spreading across the continent. Now, I don't know if that's actually the goal, but that could very well be it. Ben Hodges, former retired U.S. general, formerly over NATO, NATO USEU COM, U.S. European Command, need to conduct long overdue theater-wide air missile defense exercise to defeat future Russian attacks. Kremlin is rehearsing now. Checking our response times and capabilities using F-35s and F-22s versus drones shows that we are not yet prepared. That's right. We're not. Kaya Kallas said that there are indications that suggest that the Russian drone attack that affected Poland early this morning was intentional. Last night, we witnessed the most serious violation of European airspace. That's right. That's exactly what happened. Czech Prime Minister says that Russia's drone attacks, which reached Polish territory, is a direct test of NATO's defense capabilities. Quote, "It is hard to believe that this was a coincidence. The Putin regime threatens all of Europe and is systematically probing how far it can go." So we're going to hear from Kallas, from the Czech Prime Minister, from the Finnish President, from Macron. Okay, here's Stubb, the Finnish president. "The presence of Russian drones in Polish airspace cannot be accepted. The incident is a consequence of Russia's escalation of its strikes against Ukraine in its illegal war of aggression, particularly with unmanned systems. This concerns the security of the entire Europe. Russia bears responsibility for the act. Even if it was an accident, who bears responsibility? The one that launched the drones. We are discussing with Poland and its allies. Poland has Finland's full support. Instead of peace, Russia is seeking escalation." Here's Macron saying, "I strongly condemn the attacks on Poland. I call on Russia to put an end to this senseless policy. Once again, I express our full solidarity with the Polish people and government." Got to get beyond strong words. We strongly condemn. You keep doing that, or you're going to encourage Putin to do more. Even Hungary is backing Poland after Russian drone breach. Hungarian Prime Minister Orban, Putin's closest ally, slams the violation of Polish airspaces as unacceptable, calls for an end to the war in Ukraine. Yeah. Now, they're half-hearted in their statements, like Peter Szijjártó says, "We Hungarians don't want Europe to be at war. Saying Europe must fight is very dangerous. It fuels escalation and risks dragging the EU into the conflict. We firmly reject this. We don't want war. We will not be dragged into it, and we will always stand for peace." Well done. He's so disappointing. Hungarian Prime Minister Orban expressed that full solidarity, called it unacceptable, but he was also saying the Hungarian stance is peace. And he backs efforts of President Putin to end the conflict. So, again, it's a half-hearted thing from Hungary, but it's still at least halfway there. Now, what was Belarus saying? Belarus said its military shot down drones overnight after they entered its airspace during Russia's latest attacks on Ukraine. Really? Meanwhile, Defense Minister of Belarus said it was them who informed Poland about the drones, and it was thanks to them that Poland was able to react. Belarus also claimed that the drones have drifted off course due to electronic warfare. Some of them were shot down over Belarus, they claimed. He added that Belarus had exchanged information about drones with Polish and Lithuanian military. Yeah, okay. First Russian response after the drone incursions into Poland was to call it a groundless accusations, according to a Russian diplomat to Poland. "We consider the accusations groundless. No evidence has been presented that these drones are of Russian origin." Where do you think they're coming from? They're coming from Germany or what? I mean, just bizarre. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov refused to comment on the Russian drone attacks on Polish territory, redirecting questions to the defense ministry. He claimed that the EU and NATO leaders accuse Russia of provocations daily and without presenting any real evidence. There's plenty of real evidence at this point. I'll leave you with a couple last thoughts. Anton Gurashenko said, "I once wrote that modern Russia is like a cancer tumor. We all know the stages of reaction: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. With Russia, we need to quickly move to the treatment protocol stage, not to get stuck in denial and bargaining stage." It's absolutely right. We need to do something. NATO needs to do something. The words, Andrew Perpetua says, the words, nay, the concern voiced today by the leaders of our strongest European allies will surely convince Putin never again, never, ever, ever again to send drones toward NATO. We stand shoulder to shoulder observing events and firmly agree to holding a meeting at the earliest convenience. Truly, Putin is shaking the hornet's nest. Of course, all that was sarcasm. Nothing is going to transpire more than likely, and that's going to cause Putin to do more if nothing is done. All right, my friends, just last little bit, tomorrow at 10 a.m., if you want to talk about what's going on, because this seems to be what we're going to be talking about. If you want to talk about this, you want to call in, ask a question, you can download the Podbean app onto your mobile device. I'll leave the link below for this. If you do that, what will happen is you'll be able to just hit a button, ask me a question in real time. 30-minute live stream. There we are. Hope to see you there tomorrow. Thank you, my friends, for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.